Reconciliation. Reconciliation is something that happens after repentance, and that is, I think, an important thing. The Bible teaches quite clearly that slavery demeans the slave owner as much as it demeans the slave. And the reason that slavery is never looked upon as a permanent thing is because of that. The oppressor is dehumanized at the same time as the person who oppresses is dehumanized. And this is what has been unrecognized, I think, by most Canadians in what has happened. So they'll acknowledge that things were wrong and that things happened that were wrong. They'll acknowledge that this is regrettable and it should never have been that way. But what Canadians have yet to see is that it's not just Indigenous people who need healing, but all of Canada that needs healing. And this is very difficult for people to see. Very difficult for people to see. And at a certain point, you have to take it by faith, as ancient Israel did when it instituted the laws of Jubilee and other things similar. It's very, very important to understand this, that every Canadian has a stake in reconciliation, that every Canadian has a hope in what is coming upon us, in what is being spoken to us today. The example I give, and I hope if you've heard me use this before, I hope you'll let me do it one more time. In the United States, last year was the 50th anniversary of the I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King. And that was a very important point, a landmark for that country. And sometimes we see that country more clearly than they see themselves, and more clearly than we see ourselves at home. So it's a good example for us because we can look and see the impact of it. Up until that point, Martin Luther King and his co-workers, his colleagues, had made the strong case that the treatment of African Americans was wrong, absolutely dead wrong. And most people at that point, a tipping point of people, had concluded that yes, it was wrong the way African Americans were treated. But what hadn't happened was the idea that there was a way forward. We know for sure that President Kennedy, before Martin Luther King's speech, said, it will take generations and generations for this to heal. He did not see any way to what would happen in the next few years, the Civil Rights Act and the other things that changed American society so fundamentally. They were looking at segregation for decades to come, at least. What happened when Martin Luther King gave that speech was that he showed the stake that every American had in a better future for all. And he did it by identifying at the foundation of the country, in the words of men who did not believe in the full equality of women, in the words of men who owned slaves, Martin Luther King found the seeds of a better future that God had planted in the past, the seeds of a better future. Like Indigenous people, Martin Luther King had a spirituality of the way in which God kind of bubbles underneath the surface of things, and the way God sets up things to happen in a miraculous and wonderful way. What he did is he revealed in the past the future that God had planned for everyone. And he showed to every single person that they had a stake in a better future, a future that lived to the fulfillment of the founding fathers and mothers, what they looked for. Now, I would like to suggest that we are in that moment for us today. Elijah Harper, who was a man that I was fortunate enough to meet and get to know, he's famous in Canadian history for his no. He said that the idea that Canada was founded upon two cultures, one English and one French, he said that was a lie. Canada was founded upon three cultures: Indigenous, English, and French. And he said he wouldn't agree to any constitution that didn't reveal the truth about Canada's founding. Because unlike the United States, Canada's economic life, its political life, its cultural life was completely dependent upon cooperation of First Nations people with the rest of society. Our industry, our economics, everything about Canada was dependent upon Indigenous technology, Indigenous know-how, Indigenous cooperation, and the stability of Indigenous peoples and their political life. All of this was absolutely necessary in the first few hundred years of Canada's life. And so the vision of the elders was not let these people leave, but the vision was that if this is such a great country, that if we all came together, if we all banded together and we worked together, we became a new people. And among the Ojibwe people, there's a prophecy that we will become a new people. That we would become a new people. We could create a better world for our parents and our grandparents. Not our parents, but our children and our grandchildren. It was this vision that is the foundation of our country. And it's now this vision that reappears. The seeds of a better future were placed in our past. And that's the vision that reappears. For reconciliation is not just people feeling bad about what happened in the past, but a commitment to a different future. And that means work, it means commitment, it means understanding, it means that every aspect of our life will in some way be touched, and I would say be touched in a positive way, towards this better future for all. Now, I want to point out something. If you talk to young people today, these young people we call the millennials, I have a few of them in my own family. And if you talk to them today, you will find that they think like Indigenous people. Their spirituality is lived out like Indigenous people. They look at the world like Indigenous people. And if Christian faith is going to survive in any livable form, it's going to have to become living and real in them. It's very important, very critical. Now, why would our elders, what would our elders say about this? Our elders say that what's happening is that the young people who are here are beginning to take upon the characteristics of the land. In other words, the land creates a certain way of looking at the world, a certain way of spirituality. That the land creates a spirituality. And that what's happening is that people are being converted by the land. They're beginning to act like North Americans rather than transplanted Europeans. They're beginning to act like people of the land rather than people from somewhere else. And this to me is not a scary thing as it is to some. It's an exciting thing. Because we will see the Spirit of God anoint the Word of God to become living and real in those people in their lives and in a way that will be compelling for them. So I look forward to it, and I look forward to what is to come. So what I'd like to do now, if I could, is to offer some time for comment, question, clarification, and I just want to say thank you for your listening. Okay.